Hello, everyone. This is Mondays with Wallace. We're live from Los Angeles, and if you are with me today, wherever you are listening from whenever you are listening, this is Monday. You are with Wallace. I am Wallace Peoples. This is Mondays with Wallace. We talk every week about some of the issues affected with cannabis and cannabis treatment. We've spoken typically of cannabis relative to cookies, cannabis legalization, cannabis in society, the pros and cons of cannabis. I do not smoke cannabis. I don't have an opinion of cannabis. I think cannabis is very common. I think it's very common in our society. It's probably taken grasp in our society. I'm not a user. I don't want to use cannabis. I don't like the idea of being altered, but I think there are some real positive aspects of cannabis in our society, and I think it's here to stay. We've had some just wonderful guests, and we invite anyone and everyone to call. The phone number that we are calling is 424-227-9461. We invite your suggestions, and we invite your calls. A little background on last week's show. Last week's show was about the NBA and the NBA using cannabis in the NBA. Our feeling was that the NBA has really declined to just taking the three-point shot based on the league changing. And I had actually placed I had actually felt that a lot of the NBA's shooting threes and a lot of the softness in the league has been attributed to cannabis. And it's probably a little more than just cannabis. It's probably even the changing in the cultures. When you look at the NBA from past years, the Detroit Pistons, who were champions in the 90s and I believe 2004, they actually didn't smoke, and there was more of a get down, pass, pick and roll, and a bang it type play or type game. Just 1 second. Hey, Hunter, can you help me with this? Can you tell him I'm on air? Thank you. You can answer there. Thank you. Our opening statement was that in 1979, the NBA began its three-point shot. That's when medical marijuana essentially was legalized. That from that particular time, very clearly, what we've seen is a bit of a decline in the NBA, and not just the NBA, but even your local gym. Long gone are the picks and rolls, but instead what we're starting to see is everyone just jacking up threes, and that's the way it's become all over the league. So I need my phone back. That's the way it's become all over the league. In our last comment is that it was essentially high scoring and boring. We were met on Facebook with a lot of very hostile, I don't want to say hostile, but we had a lot of comments that people seemed to reject that assessment. And I'm going to read some of the comments. Terry said, you might want to correlate all their high salaries. After all, driving to the rim for a layup or a dunk can get dangerous. I think most people really want a long career and willing to pay millions of dollars, not to mention the three-point ball, how that's changed leagues, and much of the defenses aren't the same. I agree to that. I totally agree to that. I do feel that the game is not a better game. If you saw the Cleveland game, the NBA championship last or a couple of years ago, that changes entirely on the three-point shot. Lane from, I'm not sure where Lane is from, but Lane says correlation doesn't equal causation. This is the dumbest analysis I've seen. Racking up points is how you win the game. The assertion that the 3-point line is your cause has nothing to do with pot. I tend to agree there's not a direct relationship with pot, but it's the overall culture that we have embraced. And that culture, which is smoking and it's the whole Scooby-Doo mentality, that culture has actually changed. And that's why I still stay with my assertion that essentially it's not as good for for our society that people are actually smoking. What an absolute dumb thing to say, but it's your opinion. NBA, Aaron said, NBA players will tell you otherwise. I mean, why don't you just smoke it and test it yourself? Smoke is a little bit of sativa. Then you actually go outside and shoot some hoops. This is ridiculous. People being so stupid about a little bit of weed. NBA players have been smoking weed and playing ball since it began. You don't believe me? All you got to do is go out and watch an interview on YouTube. On YouTube, it's not hard to find this information. It's just that stubborn people are scared of the effing paint. That hasn't killed anyone. Quit tripping. It's alcohol and prescription drugs that aren't causing the stuff. Painkillers are addictive. You are not going to suddenly smoke weed and play like you are using the plant responsibly. With prescription drugs and alcohol, you can physically get addicted on the spot. Oh God, the weed stigma thing is super dumb. The game may be getting boring to you because you have been obsessed with it for ages, and now maybe you're a bit bored of basketball. Aaron, I love basketball. Maybe watch something else for a change. Well, I appreciate Aaron's comment, and I appreciate all of our listeners. I appreciate all of our callers. I believe we're going to be able to call in. Yeah, well, just to have them online. Do we have Mark's number?
It's on there. He called. He wanted to listen.
Oh, I see. Okay. You all know that I'm a board certified pharmacist, and we discuss cannabis on the Mondays with Wallace. This is the Power of Voices Network. We're live from Hollywood each Monday. We will look at the legal aspects. We will look at some of the performance aspects, the financial perspectives, and impact on cannabis on our society and quality of life. I've been in healthcare for 30 years. I'm an actual pharmacist. I'm a board certified and board licensed pharmacist. What we're going to chat about today is marijuana drug testing in the NBA. And we're going to chat about drug testing generally speaking. So what do you think happens if you get drug tested? If you get drug tested, what happens is you get a note from your human resources. You get a note from your human resources, and the human resources will ask you to show up. Typically, you have 24 hours to 72 hours to show up. Some places will give you a 30-day window where you have to show up for your drug testing. Drug testing typically will check a number of variables in your body. Drug testing will check for marijuana, which is, of course, pot or weed or bud, grass, or herb or reefer. Not many people call it reefer anymore, but that stays in your system for 2 to 5 days. We will also check for alcohol. Alcohol is something that will also stay in your system for 1 hour. Opiates, 1 to 5 days. Barbiturates will be in your system for, barbiturates are things like phenobarbital. Phenobarbital will be in your system for 3 to 5 days. There's things like codeine, that's 1 to 2 days. Ketamine. Ketamine essentially is a really powerful tranquilizer. Ketamine at times you'll see used in horses to relax and tranquilize them. That is in your system for 2 to 4 days. Methadone will be in your system for 1 to 7 days. Nicotine, 1 to 3 days. Anabolic steroids. Anabolic steroids can be in your system. Okay. Anabolic steroids can be in your system. Honey, can you give him the number for Mark? Anabolic steroids will be in your system for up to 3 to 4 months. Mark, just write it down for him. Give it to him. Anabolic steroids can be in your system for up to 3 to 4 months. Methqualone, which is Quaaludes. Quaaludes is the thing that Bill Cosby was giving to, or they claimed, Bill Cosby claimed they were giving to people that would want to have sex with roofies. Roofies are the things that you could slip in a girl's drink, and it was thought that that's what Bill Cosby, if he is guilty, and you can argue that he was guilty or wasn't guilty. I like Bill Cosby. I'm a really big Bill Cosby fan. I feel Bill Cosby has been treated a little unfairly, but it is my feeling that Bill was probably guilty. It was my feeling that Bill probably, he probably did have something to do with the whole illegal introduction of drugs to someone for ill intent. Although I'm a big fan of Bill, I'm a big fan of the Fat Albert franchise, and I was a big fan of years ago in Toledo. A dear friend of mine was actually killed in some random gang violence, and my friend actually no one ever found the person who killed him, but Bill did come to Toledo. Mr. Cosby did come and raise money for the family, and I've always respected Bill Cosby. I still respect Bill Cosby. Back to our comment, benzocaines, how long they'll be in the system. Benzodiazepines will be in the system for 2 to 3 days. GHB 1 to 2 days. LSD will be in the system for a few hours. Methamphetamine will be in the system for 2 to 5 days. Oxycodone will be in the system for 1 to 2 days. So there you are. You're working, and you were at Venice Beach, as we were just at Venice Beach. Can we take one of our calls?
Yeah, it was Mark.
Okay. Who's on?
Mark and Kevin. No, Mark and...
We can put on whoever first.
Okay, you ready?
We'll put who's first, or both of them. Put them on.
They're up.
Hi guys, this is Wallace Peoples. You're on Mondays with Wallace. We're talking about marijuana. We're talking about workplace drug testing. Who do we have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Well, you got Mark here. I don't know if anybody else is on, but and you're talking.
Okay. Hi, Mark. How are you? Mark, I'll tell you, we're looking at Venice Beach. Before we prepped our show, we were down at Venice Beach, and we were chatting about drug testing in the workplace. If you work in healthcare, which I believe you work in healthcare, we were trying to see if being around people that were casually smoking, as people were casually smoking marijuana or weed or pot, or what do you call marijuana nowadays, Mark?
I guess weed.
Weed.
The nomenclature has changed over the years. I was thinking about that. It used to, remember the advertisements that what they would say, why do they think they call it dope? They would have the guys smoking weed, and they'd say, why do you think they call it dope, or whatever? But it's gone from dope to weed to whatever. I guess I go by weed now.
You're right. I think largely it's moved away from dope. I think that was maybe the not the Clinton administration, but the Reagan administration. There was the was it Just Say Nope to Dope?
Yeah.
Just say nope to
no.
dope. Just say nope to
Yeah.
dope. And Just Say No was, I believe, Nancy Reagan. So if you are actually, let's say, Mark, you are working and you've been alerted that you have to take a drug test, which is a random drug test. Many times when you take or you accept a position, some of the criteria for the position is that you are subject to random drug tests. What is your first response? If you know you're
Well,
clean.
mine is, of course I'm going to do it because I know I'm clean, but I can see where, because cannabis stays in your system for a long, long time. I heard you discussing that. How long does weed stay in your system?
Well, weed generally can be in your system for up to 21 days. However, generally you can get an active product for up to 7 days. Usually it's thought that you can actually have it be under the influence up to 12 to 24 hours. A positive drug test, generally with drug tests, there's a threshold. There's a threshold for a positive and a negative. With the threshold for weed is 50 nanograms, 50 nanograms. So if you were at Venice Beach, as we just were, and you were around smokers, even though you're relatively naive to marijuana, you could still get a positive, but it would be way below our threshold.
Like the poppy seeds in the old Seinfeld show, where the poppy seeds turned up on a drug test because of they associated with heroin, poppy, and all that stuff. I don't know if that's true, but
well, actually, that is true. That is possible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are fairly distant and fairly close to us, but they can actually assay, or they can actually affect blood tests, or not blood tests, but urine tests. So,
okay, because are they going to have a? Is that what they usually do? Urine test? Because they usually, there's all these things they sell to get around that and all that stuff. The Wizinator and the Golden Seal supposedly to flush your system out. And, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in California, where it's all legal now.
What happens now? So you've already accepted the drug test. Now, generally, if you went to the restroom, which is what you would do, you would go take a urine test typically. Do you have the right to be in there privately? Do you know the answer to that?
I do not know the answer.
You actually do not have that right. A drug
Well,
test...
they can watch you pee, right?
They can actually watch you pee. They can actually insist, and typically that is the case. They will actually insist that they, inspect your, inspect your piece, I guess, or inspect you doing it. They can actually, they will watch you. They will give you a cup, which typically is a sterile cup. They will typically mark it, and usually there's a number of different markings on the cup. If you suspect, for some reason, that you are being railroaded, let's say you are a whistleblower at work, or let's say that very possibly someone doesn't like you and they would like to railroad you. The things about labeling your urine, it's really important. It protects you as much as anybody. So
what do you mean labeling? You mean putting your name on the cup, or
putting your name on the cup, labeling it, identifying it, and even watching you do it. So now they're getting ready to watch you do it. What if you felt that you had smoked within the past 2 weeks, or you were around someone in the past 2 weeks? What do you think you could do to actually throw the test off a little bit if you wanted to throw the test off?
Well, I guess you could contaminate the urine somehow.
Well, I guess you could contaminate the urine, but probably the easier thing to do, if you were trying to throw the test, and how would you throw the test? And I don't recommend throwing a test. I don't recommend,
Right.
I don't like people going to work smoking. I don't like the idea of people driving when they're altered, and you know that. And, we always give the number to Poison Control, which is 800-222-1222. But what you could do with a urine test, the labs, there are a few parameters of a urine test which will allow them to throw it away. One of those parameters, if there's not enough of a drug called creatinine, actually it's a hormone called creatinine. So if your creatinine is really, really low, that would typically allow the drug tester to dismiss the result. You can actually buy creatinine in the store at GNC, and you can actually take creatinine. What you would typically want to do is want to dilute your urine. So when you actually go urinate for the very first time, let's say you've waited overnight, typically that would be a more concentrated urine. So the smart thing to do there would be to actually go to the bathroom and then go a second time for your drug test. So if you went a second time for the drug test, that would at least allow your urine to be a little more dilute. You're trying to be under that threshold for marijuana or anything, and that would also allow.
But I would take the creatine at night too, though, right?
You would take it. You would take. You would take the creatine at night or creatinine at night, and you would try to hydrate yourself or try to take an excess amount of fluids.
Very good. There you go.
Some of the suggestions that I've also seen, a lot of things don't work. You'll see people suggest to take some of the B2, thiamine, riboflavin. I haven't seen where that has worked, but I have seen people take drug tests successfully and pass them. And typically there's a threshold. And in the United States, I'm sure you know the federal guidelines prohibit marijuana. However, in California, we're a little more liberal here. We do have recreational marijuana, but you still have an employer, and your employer still can decide whether you can take marijuana or not, or whether it's legal. And can you be fired in California for having marijuana in your system on the job, Mark?
I would guess you could if your employment said you could, or your employment contract or whatever.
And you're right. You're absolutely right about that. And you probably have a lot of legal standing behind you. But yeah, you can actually be fired if you have marijuana in your system, even though you've done it legally. Even if you have it medically, let's say you need it for cancer or for what have you, you can still be fired.
Damn, I didn't know that. But
Are you watching any basketball lately?
Oh yeah. Watch those Celtics Saturday. Oh my God, what the heck happened? I couldn't believe they won that game.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Boy, I really got, I think you maybe commented on my show last week about marijuana and people smoking. I really got a lot of blowback from that. Some people really seem to feel that marijuana is not really related to basketball and smoking. And I was a little surprised at some of the blowback I got. But your blowback is good. So, it's an interesting subject. Yeah, I was.
I'll tell you, I've got a subject I'm going to throw out for one of your Mondays with Wallace. I've listened to a podcast with Michael Pollan. I don't know if he's the writer. It's up at UC Berkeley, and Tim Ferriss's podcast. But he's written a new book on psychedelics, and all the research into psychedelics with oncology patients and so forth. But just the whole, they're coming back now with all these all mind-altering drugs and see how they work. In the health sphere and everything like that, but it's very interesting. That would be an interesting topic for us to pick up with Mondays with Wallace.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll certainly make that a topic. I wanted to read you one of my comments from Facebook about our alcohol, or not alcohol, but marijuana, the NBA, high scoring but boring. Bro, is it Dexter spelled it BRU? BRU, is that bruh? Is he saying bro?
No, he's probably saying bro.
Bro. So how do you spell bro? I thought bro because
BRO.
BRO. That's what I thought. So Dexter kind of confused me a little bit. But he says,
Yeah.
bro, alcohol is used and abused way more than weed in the NBA. Those are white folks' statistics. Now, I take exception to that, and I'm a little offended by that because this isn't a black or white issue. So
Yeah, not at all.
I thought that was awful. I thought so too. It says those are statistics that are plain old ignorance and let people perpetuate the bullshot blame of lack of play and hangovers. Dexter's attributing hangovers to cortisone shots. That's really very interesting because cortisone shots, it does affect your cortisol level, and your cortisol level can actually affect your a lot of things. It can affect blood pressure. It can affect depression. It could affect euphoria. And Dexter seems to leave weed alone. Mark,
Yeah.
do you
I don't
feel
think so.
that weed affects the basketball play?
Geez, I know from what I've read in the, I know a lot of people, a lot of the players smoke it, but I'm not buying the complete thesis that you're putting out there about affecting the play that much. I think they've gone to the 3-point shot because they're much better shooters nowadays, and I don't know. I'm not buying the weed.
You're not buying either. Jake says wrong. The play is as great as ever. But let me ask you a question. And a lot of people on Facebook, they tended to want to challenge me to play basketball against them. And I'll tell you, can Mark smoking weed beat Mark not smoking weed? And that's what I say to a lot of people. And what's your answer?
No.
No. That was my question to Jake, who didn't respond. That's my question to a lot of people. Smoking weed, you're just not a better player. Would you want to play? Would you want to pay to see a team who are smoking weed? I wouldn't.
No.
I just wouldn't. That's just.
Well, what do you think of the other side, like other drugs they may be using? I mean, like you hear it all the time, like in the NFL, amphetamines and things like that. There may be more of that going on than weed. I don't know. If people are injured a lot too, you're on.
People are on a lot of pain medicines, and when you look at a lot of the players that have been playing, going back for years and years, there wasn't the protections that the players had today. And you would see players that would be even in the NBA or the NFL, they've adapted the head trauma protocols, and a lot of the players won't when they're hurt. Yeah. Oh, this is Mark. Yeah. So you're seeing players not really playing through the injuries. Look at the kid for San Antonio. From LA. What's his name? The kid from San Antonio?
Oh, I don't know.
I can't think of his name. But he's just an amazing player, the power forward. And he'll probably be with the Lakers next year or the Clippers. I'm a big Clipper fan. But his feeling is that he's not playing while hurt. And a lot of times, even today, when I work in pharmacies, I work with a lot of NBA players, and some of the players really have some trauma, some kidney trauma, because they've been taking a lot of non-steroidals. You'll see them taking a lot of Motrin, a lot of Aleve, a lot of, let's say, Ketorolac. Ketorolac is a really popular product in injuries, and it really works nicely. But it
Yeah,
actually
they shoot. They're injections, intermuscular, right?
exactly,
Toradol.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's Toradol or Ketorolac. What happens is
Yeah,
it actually
Ketorolac.
can shut down the kidneys. So what's better to play, to not play, to take a Toradol, which has potential risks, to take narcotics, which certainly alter you even, or to take marijuana.
Yeah, but they're probably, you know, I just don't know. I don't know. Marijuana to me is a kind of makes you mellow and downs you out and things like that. So I don't know. I can see them going with all the steroids.
I tend to agree with you, and I think as we're looking at marijuana now, I think things are just a lot different, and things have just changed quite a bit. I think us looking at marijuana will probably will probably change. I think it's really important, Mark, for the federal government to actually sit in and regulate marijuana, and I don't know that that's a good thing.
Right.
The
And I
worst.
don't know if that's going to happen either, right? You don't know.
Well, we
if
don't
they're
know
gonna-
that that's going to happen. It said the worst thing a country can ever hear from America is, "Hello, I'm from America. I'm here to help."
Yeah. I'm from the government.
Exactly. I'm from the government. I'm here to help because
That's
many
right.
times the government they get in with their regulations, and I think that's where the Trump administration has tried to rescind a lot of regulations, which I'm really not a fan of. But I think the Trump administration has tried to get rid of a lot of regulations, and I think that if they do that with marijuana, I don't know that that's so good, but that may typically increase the price, which will make it prohibitive for people to actually use it. Next week,
I can't see them going that way.
I'm really thankful to have you and anyone on and anyone listening to Mondays with Wallace. This is Mondays with Wallace. Next week on
let's
our
get on
show,
to the next one.
I apologize.
Next week I said no. I'd like to get on to the next caller, but what's next week?
Next week we're going to talk about growing marijuana. We're going to talk about how to produce it,
Yeah.
how to grow it. It's remarkable that now you can't find seeds anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's really hard to find marijuana seeds. It's just about.
Well, I gotta admit, I'm invested in it. So let's. I don't know how they do it, but I was buying shares of these pot farms up north and stuff.
Oh, is that right? So you've bought shares of pot farms. How are you feeling they're performing?
Yeah. Well, no, they're up. They're up a little bit, but they're like a real roller coaster. But you can get in there like penny stocks and stuff. When I
Is
bought
that
them,
right?
I bought like 500,000 shares at a penny a piece or something. Yeah.
Oh,
Crazy.
that's remarkable. I think if you can think about the Bitcoin phenomenon,
Yeah.
I know people that have really done well with that.
So do I. I know some people that really done. You and I both know somebody really well that's done well with that. So
Yeah, Bitcoin now is trading at I know it was $10,000 a share or so.
Yeah, well, it's about 8. Maybe it's 10 now. Who knows? So I know it sold off at like 20.
$20,000 a
Initially.
share.
Yeah,
Wow.
close to it. 18 or 19 he got for it. Right now, I've got some, but all I've ever done is tread water with it, so I haven't made any money on it. So,
Yeah, Bitcoin, by the way, is trading at $9,342
There
a
you
share
go.
as of
good
today.
stuff.
So
What's up?
I know people that have actually sold houses for Bitcoins, and I'm not sure what the advantage of doing that is, especially since Bitcoin changes so much. How do you cash your Bitcoin out, I wonder?
Yeah, you gotta cash it out with them in the wallet, whatever group you're with. Like I bought this through this group I knew, Coinbase, but you gotta cash it out with them, and then they'll give you the money gets transferred. So yeah, it's kind of a
Bitcoin is thought to really have a place with marijuana, just because marijuana and the federal statutes don't really allow the banking to use it. I think Bitcoin is something that is too volatile to use. Would you hold Bitcoin today?
I'm holding Bitcoin today.
Oh boy.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm holding it. I haven't sold it. It's just treading water from what I paid for it.
But it's moving so far. Do you feel holding it? I would think holding would be more risky.
Well, no, I'm holding it at pretty much at the price I paid for it. It's gone up and down, up and down. It's just I'm waiting to see if it goes sky high to get rid of it. So we'll see.
And your marijuana stocks, are you holding them or are you?
Yeah, I'm holding them. Yeah.
You're holding your marijuana stocks.
They really haven't launched the, the general public payoff to the general public. And I mean, there's no like general public stores around much yet in California. They're all medical marijuana places, and you can't get legal marijuana really. Only about a couple of places that I've read in the LA Times. There's only like one place in LA that a person can just walk in and buy it. Places I know you've got to have a doctor's statement.
Okay, so it's my understanding, and you're obviously more knowledgeable here than me. It's my understanding that since marijuana is now okay for recreational use, although I know there's real problems with people getting licensed, facilities getting licensed,
right.
And that may be the issue. So you're saying you can't go to any place? Because I see places all over, and they have the green stripe.
They have the green stripe. They're usually only taking people with a medical condition.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think one of our shows, we're going to have to walk in one of these places and kind of explore them and chat with them and talk about them. I would feel pretty good about your stock. I don't know how you're going to get the payout on there, but if you're able to buy penny stocks, I like that.
Oh no, I bought the marijuana stock through whatever, but Fidelity or whoever I got there. I pay $6.95 a trade.
Oh, I see, and
yeah, it's just they're on the exchanges, so they're not hard to find.
Oh, that's good to know.
The big ones.
I think if you look at culturally, if you look at marijuana, I think marijuana has kind of moved away from people thinking it was a gateway drug to something illicit. I always thought that marijuana was, if you're smoking weed today, you're going to be doing heroin 6 months later. I think it's moved away from that.
It sure has. Yeah, I remember seeing films. Remember, the marijuana, the movies they made and stuff, like, try to scare people from taking it and stuff. It was crazy, some of those things they played. So, yeah, it's gone. It's so mainstream now. It's
it seems to be.
Good.
So you've got your drug test, and you've been drug tested, and you come back completely clean. Are you basically off the hook?
Probably not. They're probably going to come back and get you again.
Well, if they don't like you, they can always come back and get you, but you're pretty much off the hook. If you do come back with a positive test, you do have certain rights. You can actually ask what the assay levels were. Most places only test for a few drugs, typically marijuana, opiates, heroin, obviously cannabis. You'll get tested for benzodiazepines. Those are some of the common tests. One thing that they also test you for alcohol. Alcohol is kind of a hard test to really take because it really isn't in the system very long. You're also seeing tests now for inhalants. People can actually smoke, or not smoke, but there is the inhalant, the inhaled paints. That's become a problem too lately, and that's one thing that some of the drug companies or some of the places will test for. Anyway, marijuana, when it's in your system, usually it's really high at about between 2 and 12 hours, and then it cuts off really sharply in your system, and you're probably okay to drive. There's probably not much in the way of how it's going to affect you, unless you're just a chronic user. I like your penny stocks. You're gonna have to talk to me more
Yeah.
about your penny stocks.
Yeah, they're essentially penny stocks. They're not. When I bought them, I think they're a couple, 2, 5 cents, something like that. They were selling for. We bought a bunch of them, and we'll see how they go.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I sure appreciate you. This is Mondays
Sure.
with Wallace. We are on every Mondays. I am Wallace. You are on the Power of Voices network. We are here with Lee Michaels. Lee Michaels is my producer. My assistant producer on the side, who's not with me today, is Hunter Peoples. We are also with Josefa Salinas. She's also our one of our producers. Mark,
there you go.
I really thank you for your time.
All right.
We're going to say goodbye to you.
Take care.
And we're going to talk about some of
care.
our previous and some of our upcoming shows. I think we maybe had another caller on. I don't know if we lost our caller. Mark, is he on? Can we get him? Oh, can we say hello to him?
I'm here.
Oh, hi. Who's this?
Manuel.
Who?
Manuel.
Manuel. How are you, Manuel?
Okay.
Oh, I appreciate you. I'm sorry we had you on hold. My apologies. You could have spoke up. We wanted to. We would love to talk to you a little bit more. How are you doing today? Manuel's our musician. Manuel is a real prominent musician who is all over YouTube. He's played with, I believe, Ike and Tina Turner. I believe Manuel has played. Who else have you played with, Manuel?
Rose Royce, Jeffrey Osborne, Cheryl Lynn, and did the last tour with Tina Turner.
And I think we got you. Either you were in studio or you're on your way to studio.
Well, basically, I'm on my way to Tina Turner's son, the only son by Ike and Tina Turner. I'm going tomorrow. I leave tomorrow to go into his studio to, help him with his album.
I have been trying to get Manuel to teach my daughters the guitar forever. And I just have the hardest time getting together with you. When you have a chance to give a lesson to my kids, are you going to be smoking? I wasn't sure if you smoked or didn't smoke.
Well, basically, I don't.
You do not smoke. Okay.
No.
Well, that's good. I didn't think you did. And do you feel that, or have you ever, if you were to ever perform, do they actually test you? How do they measure your skill set?
Well, they don't. They don't. In actuality, they don't. It's like, as long as when you're at rehearsal and they know that you're not affiliated with needing alcohol or marijuana or anything of the sort. If who you're working for knows that you're not relied on that, they don't even care when it's time to perform what you do.
Well, music is such a tough industry to get into.
Big time.
And I know you're in. I know this. I know this for sure. So, if you are fairly new, and I were to show up, and I want this job, and I'm there with Ike and Tina Turner, and they're smoking weed, and they offer me weed, what would you do? Would you take a hit of the cigarette, or would you
No. I would refuse it because for my particular anatomy, it makes me paranoid, and it makes me nervous, and it makes me very self-conscious of myself. So marijuana and me, we don't see eye to eye.
Okay, so you're going to say no to that.
Yeah.
How would you say no? Let's say I'm with you now. I'm with you. I smoke. I pass the joint around, and I hand it to you. Would you actually say no, or would you give me a mean look? How would you say no?
I would just say no. I said no. I would say it like this. No, I'm all right.
Okay.
In other words, I'm not gonna, put anything in my system. Even what they do, they try to be nice and courteous about it. Thinking that maybe that's what you do. But after you work with somebody for a long time, they automatically know that that's not not something that you do.
I see. So, okay, so the next thing, they're passing around cognac. And everyone's taking a little cognac. Would you take the cognac?
No, because I don't like hard liquor. Only thing I drink is beer.
They're passing beer around. Would you take a beer?
Yeah.
Would you take it before the set or before the show?
Yeah.
You would.
Yes.
So is your feeling that beer would enhance your ability or detract from your ability?
What it does is like it relaxes me because like when you first start a set, man, you're nervous, you know. So it for me personally, it relaxes me, you know. And then after the first two songs or such, you know, I'm good, you know. But sometimes, you know, if it was offered and it was okay with who I'm working with, if they allowed me to do that, then yeah, I would have a beer, you know. It's not that I'm dependent on it or anything.
No, of course not. Absolutely, of course not. Of course not. Do you find that beer, let's say marijuana, and I know you don't do marijuana, or let's say if you're in pain, because if you're in pain and you took, say, a codeine or Vicodin, do you feel you can perform or function taking a codeine or Vicodin?
Yes.
Oh, is that right? Is that right?
Without a shadow of a doubt, yes.
Even, you know, I have found that some patients, particularly with marijuana, they have certain memory deficits where they'll lose their memory, just short-term memory. Does that a problem with you and some of the, let's say, a Norco or a Vicodin?
No. No. With marijuana, I would assume maybe yes, you know, because marijuana, you know, you zone out on it. You know, it's like, you know, then you might, catch yourself and you might play it in a different manner, you know, because you're catching yourself because of memory loss. You know, and I can honestly say to you, Wallace, that, you know, when you perform on marijuana, it will, it can cause a malfunction, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
It really can.
One thing that is fairly common, and I don't think it's as fairly common as you think, but you hear performers are actually forgetting some of the words of their songs. And
you know,
I'm wondering, is that
not to interrupt you, Wallace, but when I was playing with Chaka Khan, she did that. She forgot the beginning of the song. And it was just a bunch of silence until she got it together. And, you know, then when she got it together, which took at about 11 or 12 seconds, it was just a patch of silence until she found herself. Because she was back there smoking weed first. So I can honestly tell you that weed can definitely erase away the memory bank.
You know, Manuel, I will tell you, my producer, Lee Michaels, he tells me that if you're not sure what to do, and I did the thing. He's been telling me to stop the thing. So he's been telling me if you forget what to do, the best thing to do is present silence. What I'm going to do, I am going to stop for 12 seconds. And just to see how uncomfortable that is, starting now. I only got to 5 and I couldn't take it anymore. so 12 seconds must have been horrible.
Yeah. I mean, everybody was like, oh, man, what's going on with her? You know?
Yeah.
But she got it together. And then the beginning of the song, she was in the wrong key, you know, but when she got it together, it was on. It was on. I was like, I don't believe that this is really happening, and I'm on stage with Chaka Khan, and she's going through this. But I knew she was back there doing something. But she was back there, you know, getting high. You know,
I don't think that's fair. You know, I'll tell you, I've known Chaka Khan for some period of time, and I've known Chaka Khan for some period of time, and although I haven't seen her in 10, 15 years. But she's really good people. I really like her. But I understand what you're saying. But she's really good lady, really good people.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, really good people. So how was the set? How was the
Oh, we
How was the
blew it
concert?
away. It was beautiful. You know, it was at the Beverly Center in Beverly Hills.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I think it went very, very well. I mean, her lead guitar player got sick, so I knew all her songs, and she used to be at Ike Turner's studio, Bollock Sound on La Brea, and she used to really dig my funk. I'm really funky on guitar, you know, and so she kind of dug it, and I knew all the songs, and so she called me up and needed me because her lead guitar player, I can't remember his name right now, but he's one of my favorites. But he was sick, and so I got the gig.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was just kind of blew me away that she kind of forgot, a little bit at the beginning, about 12 seconds, but she really blew it away, man. She blew that place away.
Well, Shaka Khan is an amazing entertainer.
Big time.
My feeling is most of the entertainers that have been around for a long time, even yourself,
Yes, sir.
there's a certain, you really get sharp, and your ability is just amazing. I did the thing again. Your ability is just off the hook, and just to be around someone like that, I'm really impressed that you had spent the time with Shaka Khan. I've never, I never knew that.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you. You've never told me. How did you get into music? How were you introduced to playing guitar?
Well, I was a percussionist first. I played bongos. I got introduced to playing bongos by this guy named David Trent, which was your cousin Kenneth, which is my brother. He was lived across the street, and I was fascinated how he played bongos. And so he taught me how to play bongos. Then I transferred to drums. And then my dad was like, you can do better than that, And so he told me to pick another instrument, because he felt like that was just an instrument that anybody could do. And so I just...
Can I interrupt you? Manuel, ask you, how old were you?
I was 12.
12 years old.
Yes. And so I came home from school. I was in the 6th grade, and Myra had introduced me to this album called Band of Gypsies by Jimi Hendrix. I didn't even know who Jimi Hendrix was, and I heard it blown out the water. When I heard that, man, I was like, man, I am going to learn how to play the guitar. And that's how it transitioned, because after I heard him, man, I was like, there's no other instrument that I want to play anymore. So my daddy bought me an acoustic guitar, and then I conquered that, after a while, and then I got an electric guitar. Before I knew it, I was in junior high school playing in, talent shows and stuff. And then I got to high school, and I was playing at talent shows, and every talent show I played in,
where did you go to high school, if you don't mind?
Second. Huh?
Where did you go to high school, if you don't mind?
I went to Crenshaw, and then I went to Dorsey. Yeah, my band
that was in Los Angeles.
Yes, my band instructor thought that Dorsey could help me more because I was highly creative, and it was like, there weren't, many cats that, could, like hang with me on a creative level, so they transferred me to Dorsey, and I guess the rest was history after that. And then I went on the road with Side Effect. Mm-hmm. And after that, man, my career launched off.
Well, you seem to have had you seem to have a healthy career. We really would like to get you in studio. We would like to see if you could, and I had asked you before, we need a opening song or an opening session from you. Something that's unique to our show. We just opened the show up, and we opened the show pretty cold. I think we need a theme song, or I think we need something that a piece that you could put together.
Yes,
if you
I can
have
do that.
I'd be so thankful for you. We'd put it right on.
I would be more than willing to do that for you.
Yeah, we absolutely need you and want you. Do you have anything upcoming? Anything coming out late or soon?
Well, we're cleaning up all the tracks on my album, and after that, like I had expressed to you, after that, I'd be able to give you a CD of the whole album. But we're just cleaning everything up right now to go into the master studio, and then after that, then it'll be mastered and mixed. And then after that, you can pick any song you want. It'll make it easier. But if you want me to come off the top of my head, I can do that too. It doesn't matter.
Sure, I bet you could. Our show today is how to pass a drug test. Manuel, what is the best way to pass a drug test?
Not to do any.
That's the best way to pass a drug test. Stop smoking weed. That's absolutely the best way. That's absolutely your best chance. A lot of people try to use a lot of things like aspirin and vitamins. And
they do, Wallace, they really do.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that successful, although you certainly can. There's a lot of things you can put. You can always hydrate yourself, and you should do that anyway. A lot of passing a drug test really is healthy living. The more fluid you're able to intake, the better you are. If you take vitamins, that can sometimes help. How if you have a manufacturer, or not a manufacturer, but if you have a workplace that tests your hair, how can you mask a hair test, you think? For a hair drug test?
Just make sure that if you think that that's going to happen, you use there's a Tresemme. It strips out it strips everything out. I learned that from a girlfriend. A Tresemme is a hair product. It's a shampoo and a conditioner.
I think the very easiest, the very best way to do it is just dye your hair.
Yeah.
If you dye your hair, which I'm probably due for, typically that's kind of the easier way. And most drug tests, because hair dye has lye, which is really kind of a corrosive agent, but that typically would destroy most tests, and for what they're able to do, because what they do, the drug gets into the follicle, and it's most.
You're smart, man. That's true.
I wouldn't say I'm smart.
Well, I'm just saying in that respect.
Yeah, that's the easier way to do it. There's probably going to be more testing as we get used to we start to accept marijuana. A friend of mine earlier was mentioning drug stocks and having penny stocks. I would think that maybe investing in the marijuana market's probably not such a bad idea.
Well, I had overheard you saying, seeds are hard to come by. So it's like, I love growing weed. You know what I'm saying? But I cannot find one seed. Mm-hmm. I for the life of me. I have friends that, I forget to even ask them about it. But I don't. I'm not that heavily in it, but I do like growing weed.
Well, we are next week. Our show next week, which will be next Monday, it'll be May the 14th. Is going to be about growing marijuana and getting seeds. And I do know where you can get some seeds. Although, once again, I want to let everyone know I don't smoke marijuana. I'm not we are just a healthy discussion forum for marijuana.
Yes.
I'm not one who has an opinion, one or the other. We had sold ourselves as being somewhat conservative, and I think conservative meant that I don't smoke marijuana, but people thought that we were aligned with the Trump administration, but that's just not the case. We just really want people to be knowledgeable about marijuana, know the risks, the benefits. This is Mondays with Wallace. I am Wallace. If you're with me today, it's Monday. I'm with Manuel. I want to thank Manuel for being on our show. We were also with Mark. I want to thank Lee Michaels, who's our producer, my assistant producer, who's not on camera today, Hunter Peoples. And we are also with Josefa, Salinas, at the studios in the Power of Voices network in Culver City. Thank you for being with me. We'll see you next week where we're going to talk about growing marijuana, how to grow good, great plants. Thank you, everyone.